This next speaker and I are we've grown to become dear friends, and I guess we met late 70s. We're getting older, but around 80 or 81, and Dr. Ritze was camp doctor. I think that's when we first met, and regarding our youth camps, and we both attended the local youth camp down Texas, probably 20, 25 years, something like that, and it's been a real blessing. Mike resides in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. It's up near Tulsa, and he became a candidate for State House of Representatives, was it 2 years ago, I guess, and you know, Mike has been a very open, very vocal member of the John Birch Society for many years. And so, you know, in some quarters, when they think we haven't done their groundwork and people aren't sufficiently educated about the John Birch Society and how, you know, Americanist we are and patriotic and all that, there are those that think some people misunderstand. And there is a misunderstanding amongst some out there about the John Birch Society, you know, because of the smears. So anyway, they were so effective against Dr. Ritze up there that they blasted him about being an active member of the John Birch Society, so he only got 72% of the vote. And you know, some of these people are just, you know, they're hard studies on the situation. This gentleman, I believe, has delivered about over 2,000 babies. And so, you know, when you deliver those voters, they're going to know you, right? Please welcome State Representative, my good friend, Dr. Mike Ritze.
I guess we're giving testimonials on how long we've been married. My wife, lovely wife, and I have been married 35 years, and one and only. I did get it mixed up one time. I think I was giving a speech at Birch Camp down in Texas, and I said I'd been married to 4 women and 1 wife, or 4 women and had 1 child, and it meant to say I had 4 children and 1 wife, but couldn't figure it out for a little while there. Anyway, you know, Birch Camp in Texas is quite interesting. You know, you meet some really neat characters, individuals down there. You get to know a lot of people like Cowboy John McManus, and first time he ever rode a horse was at the Texas Birch Camp, and if you don't believe me, I do have pictures. He did very, very well until the horse went into the pond. Of course, it's sad I was right with him. It's an honor to be with you here today, and we are getting ready. If you haven't seen, I meant to bring a copy if you haven't seen the latest New American, but they did an excellent job on interview. Bill Jasper, as always, did a fantastic job on interviewing us. With the healthcare professionals that'll be on the tour, I'll be on the Southwest tour, and just met one of the members. Didn't get to meet his lovely wife here yet, from the area where we'll be starting down in Victoria, and they've got us booked for about 9 cities, just rapid fire, and then a lot of interviews. And I have been the speech chairman. You know, when you remember the Birch Society for as long as Clark and others in here have been, you know, you do a lot of things. You multitask, you know, speech chairman, trim chairman, chapter chairman, different chairman of everything, and you're responsible. And it is interesting that you have to meet certain individuals as they go along. There's others like, let's see, what's his name, Waters, Larry Waters, and down there, and then there's, of course, our great friend Bill Cherry, who just does an awesome job for all of us and help us out and get us straight. But it's a well-run, well-greased machine with the Birch Society. As Clark said, they did attack me, and I said, come, bring it on, bring it on. All it did is just bring out all those ladies that I'd delivered their babies that I'd birched for 25, 30 years. And one lady, she said, I want to put and you can go to my website, mikeritze.com, but she says, I want to put a comment on your website. If I trusted him to deliver my 3 children, I trust him to be my state representative. And so, you know, that's a pretty good recommendation right there. In the latest also Birch Bulletin, there is an excellent opportunity for you to get involved with what our passion is now for the last year and a half, is to stop Obamacare. Obamacare, as you all know, you've heard the speeches, you'll hear them when we come to Oklahoma City or to your cities if you can hear, and we're not going to get into that because we don't want to be repetitious, but basically it is the greatest grab in our time of European, Canadian-style socialized medicine. And what it will do, it will close the door on health care, and we're already seeing so many healthcare professionals that are leaving the profession. In Oklahoma, and it's a national trend, we lost, last year in 2009, we lost 25% of the physicians in Oklahoma and nationwide, just 55 years and older, just quit practice. And as you see in the interview, it talks about that there was a friend of mine that was a neurosurgeon, 49 years old, in the magazine. I quoted that with Bill, that he said, I'm out of here after I finish an MBA, and we have a tremendous shortage on neurosurgeons in Oklahoma. We don't have any more. We lost our two pediatric neurosurgeons in Tulsa, and there's only one pediatric neurosurgeon in the whole state, and that's here in Oklahoma City. So we have a tremendous shortage of specialties like that, and of course my expertise in family practice. No one wants to go into that anymore because the scare of Obamacare and also the high income is being cut down with the Medicare and the Medicaid funding. What I'm going to talk to you about just briefly today, and then we're going to talk on something that just happened yesterday or the day before up in Michigan. Maybe you all heard about it, but I want to talk to you briefly about the third R against Obamacare. The third R against Obamacare, let's see if I can get around here to see this. Basically, the winning slogan against Obamacare is the 3 R's suggested by John Graham of the Pacific Research Institute, is repeat, replace, and what we're here for today is to resist. Senator Brogdon and I authored the bill in Oklahoma to opt out of Obamacare as a statutory bill, and we got it through the House and the Senate big time. When it came to our liberal Governor Gump, he vetoed it. And as a result, we came right back and started a process. We had it in reserve to have it on the ballot, and you will get to vote if you're a citizen in Oklahoma, registered citizen, to vote. You'll get to vote next month to add it as a constitutional amendment to opt out of Obamacare. And basically, it will be a choice. It will give you a choice because employers and as citizens, we will not have a choice if we don't opt out of Obamacare. And so far, 42 states right now have followed the lead. About 3 or 4 of them have already passed it, and about 5 of us are sitting in the background waiting for the November ballot. And polling right now in Oklahoma, I don't know what you've heard, Senator Brogdon, but it's pretty good, probably 70 to 80% that will pass. And we'll talk about it real fast at the end, but it's question 756. And so you need to vote yes, even though the Attorney General takes our simple 8th grade language that we put in these questions and these bills and they put into law and turns it into the lawyer language that, you know, I didn't even recognize the bill when I read it. And then they give an opportunity to contest it in part of the question, which we got to fix that, or at least you got to help us now. But anyway, as the consequences, such as the arithmetic, come to light, supporters are running for the cover. It's the Senate Godfather. Remember Senator Baucus, Max Baucus from Montana, admitted that he did not read the bill. Most of them didn't. Even the president didn't read the bill. I did. Senator Brogdon and I talked many hours with others about it and studied it. And I know many in this room understand the implications of that. But what we're trying to say here is, nor did they read it, they didn't understand it. They didn't understand really what to do with it, so they delegated it to, quote, experts, and the 3 R's basically in the the expose here today of the communications for the supporters, we are here to build a resistance. And that was the second part of our bill. Senator Brogdon and I, as the House sponsor, the primary House sponsor in the Oklahoma legislature, and Senator Brogdon in the Senate, we wanted to have it in statute to also repeal it as being unconstitutional. We cannot find anything in the Constitution that says the government is supposed to, first of all, provide health care and then force you to have health care. They're saying with the Commerce Clause and that they can do that. We disagree. We feel like that the Commerce Clause is not interpreted by the constitutional principles. It's interpreted by the Supreme Court decisions, as we know. They never really want to look at the Constitution. But basically, in this perspective, to repeal it, the communications perspective from Families USA says that the environment for Obamacare is challenging since the public is disappointed, anxious, and depressed. Claims of any benefits have to be small to be credible, and you can go on that website if you like. And the interest groups, special interest groups that help to pass Obamacare, basically such as the AMA, and I'm really ashamed to say, but unfortunately only 10% of the physicians, and they're mostly academicians, and they're on the dole, and they get a lot of money for their coding that is really objectionable to the rank and file physicians out there. But the only true voice of medicine today, the AAPS, Association of American Physician Surgeons, has been around for 60 years. I was privileged to be their keynote speaker at their convention in Nashville last year, and I thought I was at a Birch meeting. I mean, there were about 10,000 of them in total, and there were probably 1,000 at their convention, and they were giving me a lot of rah-rahs and amens because we were telling them what we were going to be doing in Oklahoma. The interest groups that help to pass Obamacare, such as the AMA and its federation, aren't exactly celebrating, but they're gearing up to help doctors with implementation. I wrote an op-ed article in the Tulsa Beacon newspaper recently, and I got a nice little scaling letter from one of the board members of the AMA, who's here at the Med Center in Oklahoma City, and I know her quite well. She's a pediatric intensivist. And she ripped me down one side and the other, and I said, well, let's not destroy the messengers, let's talk about the message. And so we dissected it as physicians should do, and we really didn't disagree after that, but she still was talking about the hallowed ground of the American Medical Association, and really that is bankrupt, and I'd like to go further, but I won't. For a price, basically doctors are going to have to pay to already implement it. That's the law, they say. And, basically what we have to realize is that even though it's the law, doesn't make it right. They say, reminding one of Jerry Crutcher's comment about the barbarities of emanating from the Old Bailey in The Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Basically we have 3 years that they have to figure out what's going on. And the bureaucrats wrote it. Now it's up to the bureau, and the politicians signed it. By the way, Senator Brogdon and I aren't politicians, we're citizen legislators. We deal with real people. We don't deal with fantasy. But as a result, they are going to implement it, and it's not written. The policy's not written. They got 3 years to change it, to fit it, to make it go around. And as a wise man in this room once said, we're in the valley of decision, because we have to really understand that they're going to tweak it the way they want in this next 3-year process. The directors of their county medical societies and our county medical societies have been told that this great wisdom coming out of Washington is under Obamacare compliance will become so more complex that so much more complex, small, that solo practices and practitioners cannot afford it. And as I mentioned, we're already seeing physicians that are jumping ship in their practices. They'll have to team up with business consultants and deals with medical societies and their members, that they're going to have to go back to their bribery. Well, here's the nuts and bolts. Here's the meat of the subject. The states are going to have to resist it. And we have that little-known clause that is ignored. The Birch Society knows all about it, but the politicians forget about it. It's called the 10th Amendment. And we have to stand on the resistance. I've heard some wonderful speakers. I don't know how much depth there is, but Governor Tim Pawlenty, I met him and spoke with him at a conference one time up in Chicago, and he's talking about that they're going to bait the states. And let me tell you, that man turned it down. Again, I don't know how much depth there is, but he turned it down in Minnesota getting all these new programs and all these bribes and everything that's going on. And once the states are firmly ensconced, they become responsible to a higher power in Washington for their bills. And as we know, Senator Brogdon said that we should have just had no strings. But I don't know what the next whoever governor will do in Oklahoma. I know what the legislature will do will continue with your help, with the many people that helped us get through the Obamacare, and that was a tooth and nail thing we had to do, pulling teeth literally to get that through. We were sabotaged by every front. If it wasn't the lobbyists, it was whomever, law enforcement, educators, and then our leadership was just killing us, and we had to bribe them all the way and meetings at odd hours to get it through. But Governor Pawlenty said, he wasn't going to be responsible for this, and he said it's kind of like the Hotel California. If you remember that book and movie, it's just a revolving door that you can never get out of. And that's what's happening with the bribes and the deception and the dishonesty. And that's one of the things that I noticed so evidently being on the periphery. I grew up in politics by healthcare professionals that they always said I would have a drug problem because they dragged me around to political and church meetings. And I did. I grew up 3 years old going with my dad and uncles who were congressmen and governors and state senators and county commissioners, and they said we did it, and all due respect to the lawyers and the audience, they said they did it because they didn't want the lawyers to take over. And so we got involved very early back in the day of when we still could, as healthcare professionals, think independently and not have to follow the company line there. As a result, Governor Pawlenty basically issued an executive order forbidding state agencies to apply for grant funding or demonstration projects under the Act unless clearing with his office or unless required by law. This requires grants to study state-based health insurance exchanges, and since we already have applied them and we've concluded they aren't going to work, that we need to make sure whoever the governor is going to be, the best we can, that we have her presence. We know it's going to be a her. That we need to have their ear and make sure that the Oklahoma legislature and in your respective legislatures are aware of what's coming down the pike. Nebraska Governor Dave Heineman told his state's education establishment that the state will have to raid education funding to pay the price for Obamacare. That's not a bad idea to start that whisper campaign out there. That we start saying, well, educators, you're going to lose a lot of money. By the way, you all probably are aware of, but this question 744 is probably going to raise our taxes in Oklahoma by 40%, maybe it's estimated. And what is it going to do with essential services of government, which is, law enforcement, safety, education, roads and bridges, health, so on and so forth. And so we need to drive that point home. Our question 744, that's one of the 11 questions on the ballot that we need to be able to. And we had to do that as a legislature because the governor, he wore out, I don't know how many pens, that he vetoed with all of our bills that we sent to him with the Republican legislature this last 2 sessions. We see here now that as Nebraska governor started this, the fragment, the big government coalition, and rammed the Obamacare through, is desperate to block repeal. As a result, insurers are now checking out or consolidate. I don't know how many of you are noticing, but your health insurance bills are already being increased. Your health insurance premiums are already being increased. Health insurance policies, I had a fireman the other day that came in the office, and he's retired, but he's still on the fireman's insurance, and they told him, if you cancel this insurance, you'll not get anything like this ever again. It really concerned him, and I researched it, and he was right. Or his wife, who I delivered 3 of their kids. She was telling me that you do something about it. And I said, well, if you vote for Obamacare, opt out 754, we will begin in the right direction in Oklahoma. Because the guaranteed issue provision that takes effect September 23rd, or has already taken effect September 23rd, some major insurers will stop issuing new individual policies for children. The administration is sadly disappointed, imagine that people would stand up and actually look at the reality of this situation, the unwarranted and unnecessary step. The state insurance commissioners and insurers are pleading with the federal government to allow an open enrollment period to help curb the anticipated abuse of the system. At least 3 smaller insurers are dropping out of the individual market altogether as they don't have the resources to hire the additional lobbyists and lawyers and become a de facto public utilities that constantly haggle with bureaucrats. You know, we have 760 lobbyists in Oklahoma, I think, last time I counted, and they all make 6 figures, and they certainly aren't in the business to tell the truth sometimes, but you learn who the good ones are, all due respect. And as a result here, we will see the insurance companies that do not have any clout to haggle with the bureaucrats, as stated by Merrill Matthews. Competitive pressure on the Big 12 insurance companies who have been moving toward an oligopoly is evaporating, but some small companies may offer more Aflac type coverage that pays a predetermined amount if a certain medical event occurs. We see here now that subscribers are going to drop coverage. There was a gentleman that named Greg Scanlon that was writing about how he decided to drop his coverage because, you know, the bill comes out, Obamacare, he can, you know, basically qualify and get sick and go on and he can have the health changes and be able to sign up for the new federal risk pool, but only after he's uninsured for 6 months. So people aren't, you know, dumb. They're going to get in on it, and it's going to abuse the system and overload the system. We know, and as we've talked before, you all know if you've read anything in the issues of the Birch Societies, the New American and others, that what is going to happen is rationing is the way it's going to be. Rationing will be if you have a chronic illness, you'll be rationed, forget about the care that you're going to get or supposed to get. And penalties will be in place. We know that's part of it. Foregoing coverage much less than premiums, which are expected to escalate rapidly. Many are expected to likely to drop their insurance altogether. The AMA on the cash practice alternatives has acknowledged that physicians seeking ways to simplify their practices and reduce administrative overhead are evaluating whether limiting their financial dependence on health insurance contracts is a viable option. This means relying on patients for payment. Oh my goodness, how would they ever decide to come up with that idea? Think about other service providers, lawyers, accountants, fitness trainers, the tailors the AMA advises. If they're giving that type of advice, they're not going to get any clients there. Clients choose them based on work styles and results, punctuality, availability, willingness to solve problems. However, physicians aren't willing to enhance these aspects of their practices. They may better off leaving their health insurance contracts and referral patterns undisturbed. Basically, it's going to be a tug of war. And what we're going to see in this tug of war is the healthcare system. The authors of Obamacare, I think, knew full well what they were doing. They were intent on destroying the private medical care and have been working on for decades, ever since Medicare in 1965. It's been their goal to destroy the last bastion. And if you've seen any of my talks before, the quote that I usually start with is Nikolai Lenin said in 1917 that you cannot completely socialize or destroy a society until you control the apex of the triangle, which is healthcare. You can socialize industry, agriculture, education, transportation, but until you grab healthcare, you cannot control it. And that's basically their intent. They're socialists to the core. They want to destroy our healthcare system. Linda Gorman wrote this. The landmines are working exactly as intended. And then the last R for replacing could mean a total government takeover or an exodus to the free market. That would be a dream come true, but it's going to take a revolution. We're going to have to educate the people like Paul Revere, wake the town and call the people on this situation, and that's why I'm getting ready to go on the tour. So critical to inform our citizens what we can do and give solutions. And we don't have time today. You've all heard the solutions, but some of them briefly are get the government off our backs and out of our pockets and out of health care altogether. Health savings accounts. You know, in Oklahoma, we're federally mandated to have only 12 insurance companies, and I authored a bill, the governor vetoed it, to have open up competition amongst healthcare insurers. You know, competition breeds lower costs, and like you purchase your car insurance, your homeowners, your property insurance, you should be able to compete. The country of Japan has 5,000 health insurers that they can choose from. So we need to have options out there, and those are many of that we have offered with our legislative process, and we'll continue to do that and walk to the truth of the matter. Depending on what the resistance, if it's stronger, no to implementation. Senator Dr. Coburn says we ought to repeal it. I'm going to hold him. I had breakfast with him the other day, and I'm going to hold his feet to the fire on that. And he's a lone voice out there sometimes. But again, I'm not relying on any federal government, anybody in the federal government to do anything about it. It's up to the states. It's up to us. It's closer to the realism of what's going on. Many are paralyzed since they don't know what the rules will be. The doctors, and that's where you come in to educate your doctors, your personal physicians or family members or friends that you might have in the healthcare professions, because the doctors can be the landmine out there to stop this avalanche. I want to briefly just share on something that happened yesterday or the day before. This is the last part of the landmine. I'm sorry. Didn't get caught up, but basically what happened in Michigan yesterday or the day before on the 7th. And if you really were in for this for the short haul, you would, you know, put your tail between your legs and go home. This is nothing. If you haven't heard about it, state of Michigan federal judge ruled that Obamacare is constitutional. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue to look like the Oklahoma Freedom of Choice Act that we had and the Health Care Act. Basically, this ruling, and you can read more about it if you like it, like online about it, and Fox News and the Post have reported about this, AP. But the judge up there ruled that Obamacare legislation is constitutional. Obviously, it's going to be appealed. The following possible questions would suggest responses should local or national press inquiring that we are now gathering, and I'll be glad we're putting together a press kit. This just came out. I mean, I just got it yesterday. But the Oklahoma model legislation that we have introduced, and you'll be able to vote for if you live here, is a solid model. We feel like the Oklahoma Freedom of Choice Act and health care will protect our citizens. Nationally, it basically will help us to be able to have a choice. It's not getting rid of Obamacare, it's just a choice that you won't be punished by Obamacare. It's going to be appealed by the Thomas More Legal Foundation, the Goldwater Institute, some other great legal institutes that will jump into place, but they keep telling us the Commerce Clause overrules or trumps the 10th Amendment. Don't believe it. We need to continue to educate our citizens about that no matter what happens, it's going to move forward. Virginia and other states are moving forward. As we said, 5 states have it on their ballot. 42 states right now have it that they're moving forward. You know, some states only meet every couple of years, so it's not in their legislative process yet, but it will be. It's going to be on their sites. Congress's unlimited jurisdiction and is not the the truth. They're trying to tell us that the Constitution basically is they can gut anytime they want, but we know that Obamacare is not constitutional. We know that if we have to take it as far as we can, no matter what some Michigan judge does. The only one hearing one ruling, as I said, the Thomas More Law Center has indicated they will appeal this. It'll continue. The nice thing about it, Senator Brogdon and I were able to get pro bono law firms and institutes and think tanks to help take this as far as it needs to go, to be able to show the Obama administration. Ultimately, if we have an overturn in Congress, maybe it'll slow it down in November. But again, as I said, we're going to basically use the 10th Amendment, let the states be the resistance, and continue to educate the people out there of what Obamacare really is or is not. 8 lawsuits are being filed against it in other states. Virginia and Florida, they're going forward with their lawsuits. As we talk about, the cases experienced major victories. We feel like just to take it as far as we can, as soon as possible, to get it moving in that direction. Many judges have already ruled in district courts, such as Virginia and Florida, that it is something worthy to advance and it can be considered constitutional. Those hurdles have already been passed. The issue in Michigan, is it dead? No, it's not going to be dead, and it's not going to go away. The judge up there, Judge Stee's ruling, to me, only motivates the states and people that are freedom-loving people in health care to continue. As I mentioned earlier, 42 states have introduced and announced the legislation. More have to, in November ballots to come, 3 in November, as we are in Oklahoma, 3 to 5, I think it is. And we in the state legislatures, we have more time that we can do that, even though they're starting to tax tanning beds. That's okay. We'll turn them down at the door. Turn up the lights. I just want to say one thing, basically, as a commercial. You have the lights up, please. There are 6 ways that you can get involved in the latest bulletin, the Birch Society, under recruiting by a gentleman named James Fitzgerald. I've heard of him. And the 6-point plan is in the toolbox, and if we have, I assume we have a literature table here somewhere, and this really will give you the walking information that you need to know, how to approach health professionals and your churches and your communities about what we can do. The publications are doing a fantastic job, and I urge you to get all of those or one of those, if you haven't already, to use to be able to implement that, because information is power, knowledge, truth is a great weapon, and I think that this thing is gone farther than I know we ever thought it could to stop this socialized grab of our healthcare system. So I thank you very much. As always, God bless, and if there's any questions, you can see me out in the lobby.